A loss for the Romney camp last night, and already new details about potential reasons why. Post reporter Scott Wilson now with an inside scoop on the campaign's regrets, mistakes, and internal drama.
Obama benefited in large part due to the candidacy of his rival Mitt Romney. There was drama inside the Romney campaign during key times. It did not have enough money to defend itself at other moments. And in the end, the more consistent, more experienced Obama campaign weathered its mistakes far better than the Romney campaign did. The Romney campaign faced a challenge. It had raised a lot of money, but it had spent almost all of it in securing the nomination. The Obama campaign, meanwhile, began a series of ads trying to portray Romney as a out-of-touch corporate raider, essentially, for, using his time at Bain Capital for material. The problem was Romney had no way to defend himself from that. He had no money, and he looked to his Republican super PAC allies for help, and they weren't around to help him at that point. So the Obama campaign, along with its super PAC ally, got 3 or 4 months to very clearly identify Romney on their terms. In hindsight, Romney campaign officials say that was a major mistake that they made, and they wish they had to do it over. On September 11th, there was an uprising around the U.S. Embassy in Cairo and a simultaneous attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi, Libya. At the time, the Romney campaign, its senior advisors on foreign policy, convened a conference call and issued a statement criticizing Obama for favoring for favoring Muslim sentiment in the Middle East over U.S. diplomats' security. The next morning, it became clear that that was a mistake. 4 Americans were dead in Benghazi, including U.S. Ambassador Christopher Stevens. The next morning, Romney held a press conference, and he stood by those statements. Privately, though, on a conference call, he said, we've screwed up. We've made a bad mistake. What's important about that episode, that some of the reporting that we did around this story surfaced, was from that point on, the candidate became afraid to talk about Benghazi and that episode. He was gun-shy after that initial mistake. Republicans on Capitol Hill really took up the call for a fuller explanation of what happened, who carried out the attack, why the White House account of the attack seemed to change over time. Romney himself occasionally would mention it, but didn't give it the sort of full-throated criticism that many Republicans wanted him to. One thing that emerged in the reporting that my colleague Phil Rucker and I did was that there was disagreements between Romney and Ryan over how Romney could better manage his image as an out-of-touch, wealthy person at a time of economic distress in this country. Ryan wanted to talk much more about inner-city poverty, about rising poverty rates under Obama. It was a way to criticize the president's economic record, but not in a way that seemed to favor lower taxes that would help wealthy people primarily. Ryan was not allowed to do that. The Romney campaign said they wanted to keep this on an economy, jobs first message, lower taxes, but not so much about poverty and about inner city distress. Where that became particularly important was a month later, essentially, when the 47% video surfaced. Romney is talking to a group of wealthy donors, and he disparages 47% of Americans who do not pay income taxes. He says they rely on government. They'll never vote for anyone but Obama in this election. Ryan's people at that time said, if we had been talking about poverty, it would have been much easier to refute those comments than it was. Romney was very exposed. He seemed to be saying things that reinforced the message that the Obama campaign was putting out about him. And Ryan and his people grumbled at the time that if they'd been listened to and been able to talk about poverty and what Republican economic policy would mean to all Americans, they wouldn't have this problem of being, after that video came out, as being seen too favorable to the wealthy. Polls really started showing the Republican-leaning independent voters breaking toward Obama. For the first time, there was movement in a race that really had been pretty stable for much of the year. Slowly but surely, those independent voters, many of them favorable to Republicans in general, started migrating toward Obama. And the race looked like it was Obama's to lose heading into early October in that first debate. Romney's problem was that he couldn't stick consistently enough to an economy, jobs first message. If he could have been able, through no fault of his own, some through his own missteps, to stay on that message more consistently, he probably would have had a better chance to win.